I'm Bishop Rousseau from the Dakotas of Minnesota area, and also serve. We rehearsed that last night, and also serve as the president of the Council of Bishops. So, have we had a good summit? Amen. And do you feel we accomplished our stated purpose to refocus our collective leadership energy on the mission of making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world? Have we done that? Yes. I want to thank one additional person who was not thanked, and that is Bishop Mike Lowry, who chaired the planning team. He acknowledged everybody else except himself, so thank you, Mike. Bishop Carter and I want to share a few thoughts with you as we wrap up today about aligning and multiplying and deploying the leadership resource in this room, and some basic leadership principles for extended cabinets that we have been exploring here that hopefully will guide you as you return home and offer leadership in your respective annual conferences. However, before we do that, I want to extend a warm welcome to the Connectional Table members who have joined us today. The Connectional Table will be meeting here for the next several days, and I am delighted that many of them are sitting in this afternoon as they arrive in Jacksonville. If we have Connectional Table members in the room, would you stand so we could acknowledge you and thank you for your ministry? As you know, the Connectional Table is charged, along with the Council of Bishops, to gather information from across the church, to call forth a vision, to articulate that vision, and then to help the church live into it. And so we're grateful for the work of the Connectional Table and the partnership that the Council of Bishops shares with them in this endeavor. How many of you are grandparents? Oh, look at that. Shar and I are blessed to have 7 grandchildren. As each one of them have come into this world, I have gathered them in my arms. Now, I had to wait in line behind the grandmothers and usually another grandfather. But I've gathered them in my arms and went off to a quiet place and prayed over them that they would walk in the light of Christ. I did not pray that they would have all the material things of this world. I did not pray that they would be saved from difficult days. And I did not pray that they would be free of evil or suffering creeping into their lives. I prayed only that they would walk in the light of Christ. You, all of us, are charged with holding now in our hands the very spirit of this church. The very spirit of this church. And my prayer is, and the prayer that I believe Bishop Carter shares with me, is that as you hold the spirit of this church in your arms and go back home, your constant prayer would be that we and our denomination would walk in the light of Christ. Would you welcome Bishop Carter?
Thank you. I want to begin by simply affirming you and thanking you for your life, for your calling, for your gifts, for your discernment to express your faith and trust in Jesus Christ and to serve Jesus Christ in this world through this particular branch of the church, the United Methodist Church. Bishops know that everything we do in teams, and the embodiment of that for me in this gathering has been for all of us to be together. Amen? And to recognize how constructive this is, and to recognize the extraordinary gifts that are at every table. So thank you for the strategic work that you do. I'm blessed to serve here in Florida, here in the Florida Annual Conference. And the Florida Annual Conference, most of the state of Florida, is a long peninsula. And this peninsula stretches out across rivers and lakes and intercoastal waterways, and the people who live here are connected by bridges. And so you're going to see some pictures of some of the iconic bridges of our state. In John 17, we see a description of the priestly ministry of Jesus. Jesus, who is the bridge between God and humanity. Jesus, who is the bridge that overcomes our sin and our separation. Amen? In our baptisms, we are immersed into the priestly ministry of Jesus Christ. And one of the meanings of that is that because of our being named by Him, we build bridges between people to connect people. Because of this ministry, this priestly ministry, laity and clergy, we see the disconnections, we see the divisions, and we're not satisfied with them. And we attempt to bridge them. And so we've gathered for these days as one part of the global United Methodist Church. Similar gatherings are happening in Africa, Europe, and Philippines. We are gathered in particular to pay attention to the U.S. context of this whole global church. And we acknowledge the deep divisions in the culture of our nation. Amen? In the politics of our nation. Amen? In the Christian church and in the United Methodist Church. In Florida, a part of our missional strategy is to build bridges to the nones and the dones, the unchurched and the dechurched. One of the ways we go about this, as you heard Bishop Hopper Johnson describe, is through fresh expressions of church. We got this from the playbook of the Church of England and the British Methodist Church. There are today 54 fresh expressions of church in the Florida Conference. In Florida, a part of our missional strategy is to build bridges toward children who are at risk. There are 1,800 Title I schools in the state of Florida, and almost 700 local churches. So how can we connect these schools and these churches? And we're frankly using the playbook of the South Carolina Conference, amen? Who are way ahead of us on this. Now, to build a bridge, some of the beautiful bridges you've seen, requires a combination of hope and strategy. It means knowing the why. Why are we building this bridge? And caring about the data. Every time I ride over a bridge, I thank God for those who cared about the data. Now, as the people called Methodist, it has always been in our DNA to build bridges. Remember that phrase, the world is our parish. And we acknowledge that it would be easier not to build a bridge. Now, I don't care so much about the conversation between don't build a wall, build a bridge. I just want to stay with the one image of the bridge. It just would be easier not to build a bridge. It would require less effort. And if we did not build a bridge, we could stay on our side of the body of water with the people who express our preferences. And yet, it has always been in our DNA to build bridges because we're Wesleyans, because we're followers of Jesus. There is some bridge building to be done in the United Methodist Church. Amen? We are a global church. We are a democratic church. We are a representative church, and we are a Spirit-led church. I've been asked to serve as one of the moderators of the Way Forward, along with Bishop Steiner Ball and Bishop Yimba. And this is about our impasse around human sexuality and the obstacles to unity. Brothers and sisters, we really are in a new place. I am hopeful, but I'm not naive. No other mainline church in the United States has remained as one church. We must work for unity. And we must pray for it. In John 17, Jesus prays that we would be one so that the world would believe that God the Father had sent him. The unity of our church is not a given. We cannot assume the we. We have to work at it. And the good news is that Jesus is already praying for it. The way forward is a bridge. In the language of Ronald Heifetz, the way forward is a holding environment. It is a sacred time and space that the General Conference has given us to cross a bridge into a new place. Not the place we used to be, not the place of my own personal preference, as beautiful as that might be to me, but really a place we have not been before. It's a holding environment. And I'm committed to this. And it's not about my ego or the ego of bishops or the members of the commission. I really personally feel like I am doing this not for myself, but for people who are about 30 years younger than me. I'm 59. I think of a 30-year-old person who grew up in this church or who wants to be a part of this church. And I want them to experience the things I have experienced.